The absolute suicide squad is here. Can Diana handle them? Magic shifts around the room as Zatanna circles the immobile Wonder Woman. The witch smiles at her captive audience. "Check the perimeter, Giganta," Zatanna orders. The hulking woman makes a face. "Did I miss a memo? You're not the boss of me," Giganta reminds her. Zatanna shakes her head and sighs. "Catch et retemerep," she orders, speaking the words backwards in her magical spell. Diana struggles against the spell, but repeats the magical words that Zatanna is casting. Their magic is connected, but she can still punch, and she raises her arm to strike. But Zatanna shakes her head and orders her to stop. She leans in close. "Try not to worry, princess. This will be quick, I promise," she whispers. Suddenly, Zatanna turns away and begins to speak her spell, with Diana repeating the incantation. Her backwards words forming the magical power of Zatanna's spell, using Diana's own magic to free herself from the parasite. Suddenly, her words catch in her throat and she begins to cough. Diana watches as Zatanna leans forward and coughs up a strange, starfish-like creature into the palm of her hand. "It worked! It worked!" Zatanna whispers as she squashes the parasitic monster. "I'm free, thank you," Zatanna says with a smile as she turns back to Diana. But Diana knows her name now. "You've given me your name now, Zatanna. That was a mistake," Diana growls. Zatanna shrugs as magic gathers around her. "No other choice. To get away from Kale, that is a time for final moves and last gasps," she explains before disappearing, teleporting away to safety. Meanwhile, in the command room of Area 41, Kale glares at the screen as she watches Zatanna disappear. She just said your name, ma'am," one of the technicians points out. Kale turns angrily away from the screen. "I heard it," she snaps. She turns back to the team and orders them to get another witch on the scene. "It will have to be him," she tells them. "Ma'am, our assessment is that he is more powerful, and we can't use the parasite on him at all," Alberts informs her. She nods. "The parasite was never a lever we could use on him, and he doesn't know the other lever is broken. So, we'll just have to keep it that way. Prep him for immediate insertion at the museum," she orders. Meanwhile, Diana watches as Zatanna disappears in a burst of light. Once the witch is gone, Diana finds that she can move again and once again has control over her own magic. She turns to the other criminals and weaves a spell. Green flames burn around her, shifting her evening dress into battle armor. Diana glares at the rest of the Suicide Squad. "Dr. Poison, I believe I told you to be good," Diana growls. Poison puts up her hands. "Trust me when I say, this was not my idea," she says. Diana stares at her for a moment, before reaching into her pouch and pulling out a pink orb. "In that case, let's remove you from this idea," Diana says as she holds up the orb. No harm comes to her. She does no harm, Diana whispers as she activates a powerful spell. The orb disappears, and Poison is suddenly engulfed in a large pink bubble. "Hey, what the hell?" she shouts as Diana picks up the bubble and tosses it out of the skylight far above them. "Hey!" Poison yells as she is thrown far away. Diana nods in satisfaction at her work, before turning back to the remaining 3 squad members. "Who's next?" she says with a raised eyebrow. Giganta launches forward and punches Diana hard, bringing her to the ground and cracking the museum floor. "Me!" she snarls as her fist comes down again and again, driving Diana deeper into the ground. "Night, night," Giganta sneers as she moves to stomp Diana in the face. but the mighty Amazon catches the foot. Enough! And tosses Giganta away. As she staggers to her feet, she turns as Cheetah rushes at her with a feline hiss. But Diana merely catches her by the face and tosses her aside. "Pegasus!" Diana shouts. The Giganta is up and moving again, rushing forward to trade blows with Diana. Suddenly, Pegasus crashes through a different hole in the skylight and wheels towards the battle below, letting out a burst of fire that forces Giganta back. The Menfish Queen Ara and Cheetah flee the flames, but Giganta is not so easily swayed. She pushes through the flames and hits Diana again, knocking the Amazon to the ground. This time, Diana does not rise again. Slowly, Giganta reaches out with her foot and nudges Diana. "Playing possum? You're not fooling Giganta," the giant growls as she stomps Diana hard into the ground. But still, the Amazon does not stir. Giganta scoffs at the weak warrior, slowly reaching down and picking Diana up by the hair. "This is what all the fuss is about? This?" Giganta snarls as she drags the Amazon outside, holding her up for the scared people to see. "This is your princess? This is your hero?" Giganta demands. Diana's eyes suddenly snap open, and she reaches out for a piece of Giganta's hair. "Match!" Diana yells, using her magic to grow and match Giganta's size. Giganta looks at her in shock. "I don't care for the way you say princess," Diana snarls at her, lashing out and hitting the villain square in the face. The blow sends Giganta flying and slamming her into a nearby wall. Quickly, Diana turns back to her friends. "Etta, Steve, where's Gia?" Diana asks as she looms over them. "She's at the candy shop. She said she needed to do something you'd been working on with her," Etta explains. Diana nods in satisfaction, but asks her friends to get to safety. Steve and Etta nod and turn to leave, but Barbara hesitates. Diana reaches out and puts her large hand on her shoulder. "Barbara, you too. I need you all safe and far away from here," Diana explains. Suddenly, there is a roar behind them, and Giganta leaps through the air, bringing both fists down on Diana's back, driving her hard into the floor. Barbara runs away as Diana rolls over. The two trade blows for a moment, and Cheetah is caught in the crossfire, sending her flying into a nearby car. Giganta grows again, and Diana has no choice but to flee into the city. She moves down the street, the giant chasing her the whole way, their footsteps cracking the asphalt beneath them. Diana's mind races, and she steps into a nearby alley. Giganta is too big to follow, and she stares at the Amazon. "What? You think I'll get smaller to grab you?" Giganta snarls as she reaches into the alley with her massive hand. But Diana shakes her head and reaches for another handful of her red curls. "Match!" she shouts and begins to grow once more. She steps from the alley and pushes Giganta back. She lashes out and uppercuts the giant, sending her flying. But Giganta lands and grows in size once more. Diana's eyes widen in shock at the woman's strange powers and calls on her own powers once more. Now, the two warriors tower over the buildings. Diana knows that combat at this size would destroy the city, so she knows that she needs to do something. Giganta stomps forward, each step shaking the city around them. "Ha! You are fun," Giganta says with a smirk. Diana nods as she moves to meet her opponent. "You know what? I am," Diana says as she suddenly uppercuts the warrior, knocking her into the air and sending her flying into the rural area just outside the city. Giganta slams into the ground with a great boom, the impact creating a crater around her. Diana flies through the air and lands lightly next to her. It's time to finish this the old-fashioned way. Diana reaches down and wraps her arms around the giant's neck, squeezing tight. Giganta struggles in Diana's powerful grip, but is unable to break free. I pray to Hecate, when you wake you will be more reasonable, Diana whispers, as the giant finally goes limp in her grasp. Rest easy, Giganta. Sleep, and no more harm will come to you today. You have the promise of Diana of the Wild Isle, Diana says softly as she lowers the woman to the ground. Meanwhile, Cheetah stirs just outside the museum. Her eyes widen as she sees everything catching fire around her. She looks up to see a burning skeleton walking forward. "Don't!" Cheetah gasps, but the skeleton holds up a hand to silence her. "Tut tut, Priscilla. It will all be over soon, my dear. This was never the life for you. Think of this as a sweet release. Freedom from all you never really wanted," the skeleton tells her softly. A burning blade suddenly appears and plunges down into Cheetah's stomach. "I'm afraid to destroy this monster, I'll need a bit of an edge," the skeleton says as Cheetah begins to scream. Moments later, Diana returns, prepared to defeat the last two squad members, but her eyes widen to find blood pooling around Cheetah's corpse. "This is blood magic," Diana whispers as she inspects the body. She turns as the magical burning skeleton begins to walk towards her. "Indeed it is, demon, and it's more than enough to deal with the likes of you," the skeleton hisses. "Burn the witch," it says with backwards words, casting a spell. Diana lets out a scream of pain as the flames begin to rise around her, and her magical arm begins to melt before her eyes. And that was the complete story for Absolute Wonder Woman, issue 17 by Kelly Thompson. Who knows what's going on with Zatanna and whether or not she's actually evil now that she's free of the Suicide Squad parasite. But who exactly is this burning skeleton? Let me know your theories in the comments down below. And be sure to like and subscribe to help out the channel. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.